All right, welcome to the after work video. We're gonna move on to the next topic. Last topic was the syslog. So we looked at how we can change the format of the message, use a different timestamp, syntax, how we can save the output to a file, how we can send the output directly to a user, directly to console. It's really just all within the edit system syslog hierarchy. You can do whatever you need to do with syslog. So I figured just an hour was enough for that. It doesn't have to get too fancy. During the test, I can just question mark around that hierarchy. And then I learned how to use the help as well to read syslog messages. So I think that's kind of as in-depth as I'll need to go. So moving on to the next topic, it's going to be user accounts. So let's do the same strategy. I'm going to make a Google Doc blank document and title it Notes. And then I'll preload it with information that I need after I complete the video to upload it to YouTube. So I'll need my tags and I'll need the title of the video. This is going to be user accounts. Yep, and then the tags. I think I'm going to try to do this one in one video as well. So I kind of debated my playlists. Do they need to be, this probably doesn't make sense to have one video in a playlist. So I probably need to have my playlists be up higher on the hierarchy, either belonging to device infrastructure or system features, something like that. My playlist, unfortunately, I think is far too specific, or even just a playlist for JPR-961 at this point with all the other videos I've got. Okay, but yep, so we can move this. We can have, yep, device infrastructure, system features. We can have user accounts as a tag. Perfect. I think that's going to be enough for the tags. So now let's try to find some resources, and then let's use the same strategy I did before. So I'll pull up my GNS3 environment. Looks like I forgot to share my screen again, so I will do that right now. All right. Okay, so I'll open two of them again, like I had before, and put them side by side. And this is going to be user accounts, so I'll try to use the help as my primary source of information. Excellent, we don't got that bug where it doesn't show the CLI. All right, so let's start with the help apropos. And we'll do user accounts, or just start with user maybe. How about user accounts instead? Or maybe just accounts? Let's try user accounts. Ah, here we go. Aha, so here we can get some sample user accounts. Perfect, sample user account configuration, perfect. So yeah, this looks really good. Let's go with that. So example, configuring user login accounts. The following example shows how to configure the local administrator account, user admin, if radius fails or becomes unreachable. The login process reverts to password authentication on the local accounts on the router or switch. So it's going to be system login user, and then you've got to give it a class which has all the permissions tied to the account, and an authentication method. The user ID will be automated, will be put in automatically. So let's look at, see if there was more information. So let's look at this next one here, sample Junos user accounts. The following example shows how to create accounts for router or switch users and create an account for the template user remote. All users use one of the default system login classes. Also, Alexander also has two digital signal algorithm, DSA, public keys configured for SSH authentication. So here's our example. Let's implement this example on router 2. So edit system login, and then we'll use different names. So we'll edit user, and then I'll use my name. Okay. So full name. Okay, and then the UID, we'll just have it populate automatically. Well, let's just use what they have. Just follow this one as closely as possible. And then I'll do my own password. So, oops. So I'll just do a plain text, and then it will encrypt it for me. So I'll just do my classic clouds. Oops, I gotta hit, there you go. Okay, so now in the show run, it will encrypt that for me. So it looks like they've got another one, but with a different class, and this is class view, so that looks like a read-only class, so I'll set that up. So edit user, or edit user RO for read-only. Set full name, Rams read-only accounts. So this can be important to have for like a script or something, because if you got a script bot going throughout your network and there's somebody, you've got an attacker or someone on your network, figures out the password to your bot script somehow, they've only got read-only access with it. So if you're using a script to only do read-only things, you're going to want to make sure that script only has read-only access. There's no reason to give it extra permissions. It'll just work against you. Okay, so I think that's all I need for now. Looks like there's, oh, this is interesting. So they have user anonymous class unauthorized. So if there's an anonymous user makes it on here somehow, they will not have any authorization. They'll be completely shut down. So that's kind of a good thing, I think. So I'm going to add that. Okay. So yep, everything looks good. Let's commit that and then log in with those user accounts. Oops. So undefined class view, that's kind of nasty that they used a custom class in their example here without showing you how to set up a class. So, but we can make the class. It's not hard to make a class. And that might be something on the exam where they want you to make a special class that only allows for specific permissions. So let's set the permissions on this. And we'll just say that it can only view the system configuration. That's all it can do. All right, and now hopefully it will commit. Perfect. So let's try to log in with some of these other user accounts. So now I can log in with the user account Graham, and I will have all of the same stuff. Now you'll notice something different happened here. So let me go back and log in with the user account I logged in with before. And I'll put this side by side so you can see what is different. So this is what it looks like now, but you'll notice that there's a difference if I log in with root. So what's the difference? Well, it's here. You can see when I log in with root, I've got an extra level of permissions that only root has. And those extra levels of permissions allow you access to the bash prompt on the Juniper. So you get put into a different place, a place that requires a higher level of permissions if you're the root user. And you can get to the normal place just by typing CLI. If you are a super user, though, you do have access to this, and I will demonstrate that. So I don't go there automatically because I'm not the root user, but I do have full permissions. So I can do start shell. Well, actually, okay, actually this is different. Never mind. I thought there was a way to get in there, but nope. You can only access this part here, the bash shell, if you are root. I actually thought you could. Yeah, I actually thought you could do it through start shell, but you can probably do start shell as a different user, that user being root. Yeah, so I can do that. I can do start shell user root, but I've got to know the password for root in order to do it that way. So, all right. So let's look at that read-only account. Okay, so now I'm going to try that same command, start shell, but nope, syntax error, don't have that command available to me. Let's do a show configuration. Oops, and I don't even have the show available to me. It looks like all I've got only a few things available. I've got nothing under start. I don't even have the ability to do show. don't have the ability to do configuration. Really, all I've got are those system level permissions that I gave it. So I've got the ability to test, got the ability to save information, to do file operations. That kind of seems like an extra because I could delete everything. But you can see there is that clear difference in what one user account can do versus what the other user account can do. And that's based on those permissions that I give it. So that's, I'm sure, going to be a big part of the test, setting up specific user accounts with specific permissions. So I think I might want to look at these related topics in a browser and keep track of those links. Yep, so everything looks pretty easy. Yep, this is exactly from there. So here's the example. Yep, and here's how you can set special commands. It did that. So looks like I pretty much know this subject already. Nothing too sophisticated or fancy. So yeah, I feel pretty confident in this. So I think I'm just going to save this. And I might even save the other one as well, limiting the number of user login attempts for SSH and telnet sessions. I'm sure something like that's going to be on there. So we can do that, of course. Oops. So system login, and then here we have the option to do that. So I'm going to implement that. So in my server, I've got CP1 and CP2. So I'm going to put up a link between the two of them so that I can log in from CP1 to CP2, which I renamed to R1 and R2. I just haven't renamed the control planes yet. So once I've got that strung up, I can enable SSH and I can log in using the user accounts, and we can see how I can limit the number of login attempts, that sort of thing, based on the settings. Yeah, so let's do that. Yeah, I think this video can be a bit shorter. There's really not a lot of difficult stuff associated with this. There's help menus. There's a lot of, I would feel pretty confident setting up like something like this on exam day. All right, so let's go configure private, edit int 0, unit 0, set family INET address. 30, perfect. All right, so now it's time to configure the other one. Oh, right, and so here's the big lesson of the day. I'm logged in with that read-only special account, so I don't have permissions to go in and make those configurations. But I can log out and log in with a different account. And I know the password of that account, so I'll use my other account. And yep, even though I go to a different prompt, I don't have all the permissions of the root account. I have plenty of permissions to make the changes that I need to make. All right, perfect. So now if I enable SSH on CP2, I'm not going to bother with telnet. Oops. So now here's where I can do some sort of, yeah, so I can rate limit, I can limit the maximum number of connections per minute. If you try to form 1 billion connections and try to lock out users from my device, a DDO or a denial of service attack, by just continually trying to form connections so nobody else can, I can prevent that just by making it so that only a certain number of connections are allowed per minute. I can change the authentication order, so the order in which authentication methods are invoked. So I can make it so that if you fail authentication through TechX, it will fail over and it will allow you to log in as a local user if there is a local user configured. Conversely, I can have it have it expect you to log in as a local user, but if you fail login, then ask for a TechX user. But that's typically not the order. It would be done with typically what you do want it to fail over to a local user, because TechX can go down for whatever reason. So if it goes down, you still want to be able to have remote access to the device. So if you have a local user account that is has a secure password, that is what you'll see in production, because otherwise, if you didn't have that and it didn't fail over to that when TechX went down, your whole ability to access the device remotely would go down as well. So that's something I can definitely set up. I can set up a TechX server. I wonder if there's even a TechX server on Juniper itself. Nope, I don't see one, but I can set one up in GNS3. It actually comes with, if I click New Template, the GNS3 VM has, under guests, they have devices or VMs that will provide services such as TechX. So let's have one of those. So let's do, yeah, so here's a TechX GUI. We could use that. I'm kind of tempted to use that one. There's also this AAA one, but let's go with the TechX GUI. Oops, and I'm going to need to get some files for this, but oops, and I don't want to hit imports. I want to hit download. So here it is. Yep, I'll download it anyway. Save, and I think that'll be good. Play around with TechX. Perfect. So looks like it's 153. So far we're at 132, so it's really moving. All right. Well, it's going to take a little bit of time, so let's go back to here, and then let's set up SSH, and let's set up a limit. Yeah. So here we can have max sessions. We can have, yep. So I guess I'm not sure what the difference between it is. Oh, okay. I guess you could have more than one session over a single SSH connection. Okay, so there's SSH. So let's commit that. All right, and then we'll try to SSH into it. Perfect. So we were able to SSH into router 2, and then you'll see just like as we did just on the device itself, those settings in the accounts apply to remote connections as well. They apply to any connection to the device. So you can see here, I don't have the same options that I had there. All I've got are these options. But if I log into the other accounts, I've got all sorts of new options. I've got every option I could want except for that CLI that I get with root, but even that I can access if I just specify a new user. Yep, and if I know the password, then I can even access that. All right, so let's see how that download is going. So the download is done. So hopefully GNS3 can detect it now. So I will refresh. All right, nice and smooth. All right, it's going to be root 123 for SSH. For the web interface, TAC GUI ABC 123. Takes a while to upload that because I downloaded it from the web. So now I've got to upload it to my GNS3 VM. I guess I wish there was a way to just download it directly to the VM. But this is pretty nice. I'm pretty happy with how this has worked out. Okay. All right, so yeah, kind of running out of things to go over. I think I'm pretty close to being able to, oh yeah, and it looks like NTP, SNMP, AAA, those are all covered in the next topic. So this is really, I think kind of the end of the road for this topic. Let's just take a look at this system login retry options. Password retry options. Got back off factor. Number of failures. Let's look at that again. Yeah, here we go. Number of failures, amount of time they're locked out, maximum time you want to give somebody to enter their username and password. So this is if you were in a competition or if you wanted to do some like black hat or something, you could set this maximum time to like 1/10 of a second, and then somebody trying to log in wouldn't have enough time to enter their password. But if you're getting that fancy, I mean, you can just disable the remote user entirely. Because that's one thing, important thing to note, is if I were to go here, and then I were to log into the remote server like this. Yep, so just how I was logged in before, but now I go configure private, delete system services SSH, commit and quit. So even though it's deleted, there's no SSH enabled on here. I'm still good to go because I'm already in. I already have an SSH session established. So it's not like I'm going to cut off existing SSH sessions. I'm just going to not allow any new ones. So now if I try to get back in, connection refused because I did not enable the SSH service. So that's kind of a important distinction to make. And if you're going to get fancy and give someone only a millisecond to enter their password, for some reason, you might as well just disable SSH if you want to lock them out. Because once you're in, you're in. And that goes the same for user accounts too. So if I go here, yep, I want to discard those uncommitted changes. Now configure private, back one, commit and quit. So now I'm re-enabling SSH on there, getting back in. The same thing applies to the user accounts as well. If I go configure private, edit system, login, show pipe display set relative. So here's all my user accounts. So if I delete them all, commit and quit. Oop, I gotta go top first, commit and quit. So now even though I don't have that user account on there anymore, you can see everything's hunky-dory, good to go. Oops. Yeah, so, oh right, it's not a, I have to do show configuration for system users. I can do that. There we go. Perfect. So you can see, oh, let's see here. So show configuration, system users, system login users is where it would be under. But anyway, this is enough to see, yep, all the user accounts are gone. There is no user Graham on here anymore, but I am logged in under that user. So how does that work? Well, it works because I already established that connection when it did have that configuration. So even though it doesn't have the configuration anymore, and if I log out, I won't be able to get back in, because it had it at the time I used it, it will persist until I stop using it. So that's kind of a interesting, important thing to know too, because if you're doing something remote, it's always kind of important to know what's going to cut off your legs and what's not. But of course, this isn't. I guess the big takeaway is, whenever you do something on a device that you're not sure will cut off your legs or not, the best thing you can do is open up a terminal like this, then go in to the device again. So open up a second terminal. Oh, it's not letting me do that. Yeah, unfortunately, it's not letting me do that. But this would be a deal. Here we go. So now I'm able to do that. So this is my advice for anyone working on network engineering and prod, is if you're doing anything more sophisticated than a show command, especially when it comes to user accounts, TACX, stuff like that, if you're ever doing something like that, open up 2 sessions to the device. One session you're just going to leave up like this, and then the other session, what you're going to do is make all your changes on it, and then test whether or not you can get back in. And if you can't get back in, you already had a persistent session here, so nothing's going to happen to that. So you're going to undo your changes because you just tanked access to that device. But if you didn't have this second one open here like this, you undo your changes, you log out, you can't log back in, you're just screwed. It's game over. So if you have a lifeline like this open, you make a mistake, you log in, you log out, you can't log in anymore. You've got this tab hanging out there ready to go, and you can restore your mistake. You can clean up after your mistake because you've got that open still. So yeah, so like here I can just go and go, oops, that was dumb. So I'll just roll back and okay, now all my users are coming back, commit and quit. So that's definitely what I recommend to anybody modifying user accounts, modifying TACX. Don't do it all in one terminal session. Open up at least 2 terminal sessions. You only need 2. There's no reason to have 3 that I can think of. And then in one terminal session, you're just going to leave it. And then the other terminal session, you're going to make all your changes. Then you're going to log out, try to log back in. Oops, I can't log back in. Oops, something went really wrong. You go back to your original one you had. Okay, well, that one's still working. I better roll back my changes. And then, of course, another thing you can do that I talked about before, but this isn't always the best way because there are automated scripts or something like that, and it does require configure exclusive, which will lock out those automated scripts or your other users. But if you use configure exclusive, another thing you can do is commit confirmed. So it will just automatically roll it back. But the thing is with that is you won't be able to tell if your changes to the user accounts made it so that you can't log in the way you needed to until you log out and log back in. So, I mean, I guess commit confirmed could work for that as well, but I would recommend, and especially since on Juniper's, on Cisco's and stuff where you don't have commit confirmed, this is still something that can happen and can be an issue if you're messing around with user accounts, especially when it comes to remote user management through TACX or something. Definitely having those 2 connections open is going to really save your a lot of trouble. Yeah, I've done a lot of work with user accounts and TACX, and let me tell you, having those 2 sessions open, that's something you learn to do really fast, because having to call up a tech is not a fun day for anyone. All right, so let's continue on here by putting this TACX GUI on the network. So I'll cable it up to CP1. Yeah, I've never used this machine before, so I don't really know what to expect. Oh, and it looks like it's not a GUI. Unless there's more than one way to open it up. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with this machine. Well, anyway, TACX is the next subject. This subject is really just about user accounts. So I think I'm going to call this video good for now. Few takeaways are just that you can create custom users with custom permissions. The root user has special access to the CLI prompt that only the bash CLI prompt that only the root user has. Other users only have that access if they know the root user password and can log in as root temporarily. Another thing to remember is, I think the key takeaway is if you're ever doing anything with user accounts, modifying that, and something goes wrong, you delete the account you're using, you set the max sessions to be 1 or some value doesn't work. You set the login time to be too quick so that you can log in. You make a mistake so that you can no longer log in. So what you need to do is whenever you modify user accounts permissions in production, you need to have 2 tabs open, 2 sessions open to the same device. And 1 session, you're just going to sit there and have nothing happening on that one. It's just going to, you can minimize it, you can forget about it, then you can do your work. And then when you're done doing your work, you're going to log out, you're going to log back in, and if there's any issue, oh, I can't log in now, I must have messed up, or oh no, it says max users, oh, there's this weird thing. What you do is you close that tab, you bring up the one you had before, and then you revert those changes. Because when you, even if you disable SSH, even if you delete your user account, you're still going to have that existing connection persist until it is disconnected. So really, really important that anyone who's watching this channel learns that, because that has really saved my life. So I'm gonna say when modifying user access configuration I recommend having 2 connections open to the device. 1 connection you can the other connection you make all your modifications and then test them. Oh, modifications and then test them. If anything goes wrong, you can recover by going back to your connection and reverting your changes. This is because if you delete a user account or disable SSH, the changes do not take instant effect upon already established sessions. There we go. So that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one where we dive deeply into AAA, NTP, and SNMP. So see you then.